you're like me, the situation in Ukraine has been probably weighing fairly heavily on you. And what are you supposed to do? You know, you're just one person. It's not like you can go over there and fight yourself. But I wanted to do something to make a difference. So today we are going to make some very special dice, and I'm going to give you some information on how you can help me to do my little part to support the people of Ukraine. Getting started with this set, we are going to need 2 cups. I know I only filmed 1, but you need 2. We are going to use 2 different kinds of mica powder, a blue and a yellow for the colors of the Ukrainian flag. This is going to be a fairly simple 2-tone set in this case. We're just trying to make it look like a flag. But to start off, we're just going to mix up some of our resin. Make sure you mix it up until your arms feel tired and there are no more streaks left in the resin. Although you'll probably have a lot of bubbles and, you know, that's what the pressure pot later is for. Go ahead and separate out your 2 equal parts of resin into your 2 silicone cups, or whatever you are using. Go ahead and get a scoop of your yellow pigment, whatever you happen to be using. I'm using this mica powder, as I mentioned before. Then go ahead and stir it up until it is a nice, thorough consistency. Scrape off your stirring stick, and then repeat the process with the blue pigment. Just make sure there are no more big chunks of your pigment around. Once you're done mixing up your 2 different colors of resin, you are going to go ahead and set out your molds, or mold if you're one of those people that uses like a big slab mold. Personally, I prefer the individual ones, but that's for another video. Then you are going to take your blue cup in one hand and your yellow cup in the other hand, push them close together, but not quite touching, and you are going to pour both at the same time. If you can't pour both at the same time, that's okay. Just go ahead and pour one color in first and then pour the other color on top. Personally, I prefer doing it this way because I feel like I get a more equal amount of resin between the 2 different colors. It's a little more difficult with these cap molds to see exactly when you're at the midpoint of the mold, so it's a little harder to get that equal sides that we're kind of looking for here. But if you can't do the pour with 2 cups and your brain just can't handle that, 2 things at once, I totally understand. My left hand is basically useless. If you're like me, just go ahead and do it the other way I mentioned. To answer a question I know I'll probably get, unless your resin is very, very thin, you really shouldn't have to wait very long to pour these. There's no need to wait until it gets to the honey consistency that you need for other more complicated sets. If it turns just a tiny bit green where it touches, it really won't make a huge difference to the overall design. When you're done pouring, go ahead and pour a little bit of extra resin on the lid of your cap mold for squishing purposes later. Finally, go ahead and use a lighter to pop any surface bubbles that you may have. And use whatever tweezers you may have lying around to pick off whatever bits of hard resin you may have accidentally contaminated your mold with. Finally, we are going to pick up our molds and put them in the pressure pot. I like to pressurize my dice at just a little under 40 psi. I have heard that you can go down to 20 and not have any issues, but I have not personally attempted that myself. Whatever you decide to pressurize your dice at, just make sure that your molds were pressurized at a higher pressure. We are going to go ahead and wait about 10,000 years for our pressure pot to finally finish pressurizing. If you're curious, I used to have a smaller one that you can almost see in the background of some of these shots, and that pressurizes a lot faster. But this one works better, so I stick with this one, even though it takes forever to pressurize. The next day, it is time to pop those bad boys out. If everything went right, you should have dice that look a lot like the Ukrainian flag. Or if you're using this tutorial to make another sort of two-tone set of dice, you should have dice that are two-toned. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out, and I'm even more happy with how I'm eventually going to be using them. Let's go ahead and get these bad boys finished up. We are just going to take off all the sharp edges around the one face with a green Zona paper. The D20, as usual, does need a little bit of extra work just because of the way it's shaped. Just something about the grade of the angle makes it really difficult to shave just the sharp edges off. Up next, we are going to ink our dice. I originally was going to ink these in a sort of alternating blue and yellow opposite colors, but I did have somebody in the TikTok video where I first showed these off recommend that I do them in a white to sort of represent the innocence of the Ukrainian people who are now having their lives utterly ruined by this senseless Russian invasion. So that's what I went with. It does also have the added benefit of being very readable when we're done. I do clean these up later by wetting down a white Zona paper and rubbing all of the excess off, but I didn't film that this time. Now that they're done, let's see how they roll. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Like I said, this whole situation has really been weighing on my heart. I have a couple of good Ukrainian friends, or at least people who were originally from the Ukraine, adopted there. And it's been hard watching all of the senseless violence and knowing that there's really nothing I can do about it. But with these dice, I am going to do something about it. I am going to take these dice and run an auction for them. And 100% of the proceeds of that auction will be going to a charity that is helping Ukrainian refugees. You can find the link to this auction in the description below, and I would really appreciate it if you would go at least take a look at it, see if it's in a price point that maybe you could afford, and maybe these dice will be on their way to you. I actually have 2 of these, one I made on TikTok and one for YouTube, so the dice will be going to the top 2 bidders. So, you've got 2 chances if you want to go check them out. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching this video. I have links to all of my social medias in the description below. This set of dice will not be available on my website as I'm doing it as an auction, but if you are interested in supporting me, you can go to my website and pick up a set of dice from me. That is also linked in the description below. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and maybe leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the dice. Or let me know another topic that you might want me to cover. I've got a couple of cool ideas up my sleeve, but I'm always interested in hearing what you folks might be interested in. For now, I'll see you next time.